Good morning, good afternoon, and good night, wherever you're watching or listening around the world. Welcome into the Makeshift Managers Podcast. I'm Austin. That's Devin. So
Hello.
one day I will point the correct way, I promise. We're still a little confused after what we watched yesterday and Saturday, for that matter.
Confusion's not the right word. It's befuddled doesn't work as well. There's no confusion on my end. Everything happened that was supposed to happen. It was a beautiful week of football that was capped off in the most ridiculously absurd way I could ever imagine. But it was, in my opinion, the best divisional weekend of football we've ever gotten. All four games were insane to watch.
Yeah, so let's just get right into it. We're going to start with the Bengals and the Titans. The Bengals take out the number one seeded Titans 19-16. Joe Burrow takes 9 sacks. Doesn't matter. Ryan Tannehill's first play of the game is an interception, and his last play is an interception. King Henry was back for the tune of 62 yards. Did find the touchdown, but probably not as big of an impact that I think everybody was expecting. Maybe it was always hard to say what kind of impact he was going to have because this dude hasn't played in 12 weeks, 10 weeks or some ridiculous number like that.
Yeah, it's been forever since Henry even sniffed live action on the football field. It's just Tennessee, while they answered the call every single week this season up until now, I don't think they had to face a team outside. Like the Bengals were probably their worst nightmare. Tennessee's defense has kind of been an overachiever of sorts. Like their secondary has been banged up and it hasn't been great over the last couple of years. They got thrown to the wolves. Jamar Chase and T. Higgins each had 5 receptions plus for basically 100 yards a pop. There was no touchdowns allowed through the air for the Bengals unit, but it didn't matter. Evan McPherson, have the cake and eat it too. That man has cojones. Like, reminded me of Sam Cassell telling his holder, like, hey, we're going to the AFC Championship game. Like, this dude's got ice water in his veins.
Hey, my man knocked Daniel Carlson out. Somebody's got to be the best kicker in the playoffs.
I guess so, but looking at the Titans, this is kind of par for the course. Their defense isn't like these world beaters, and their offense is led by Ryan Tannehill. He's the same dude that was coached by Adam Gase and did diddly shit his entire career until he came and played for Mike Vrabel. And while he is serviceable and he's sometimes above average, he's never going to be the best quarterback in a game this late into the season. It's just not how that's going to work out. And I think the Titans probably hurt themselves a bit committing to Derrick Henry so much. I think they would have been better off using him as a decoy in this game. I didn't expect Henry to get 20 carries personally.
Me neither.
Deonta Foreman with 4 carries. He averaged 16.5 a carry. I expected more of a split or having Henry as more of just this play action threat because A.J. Brown went off for the Titans. He had the game that I expected out of him, but you couldn't ask more of A.J. Brown. You could ask more of anybody else playing for this Titans offense. Julio Jones had 6 receptions for 62 yards.
Julio had 6 for 62. I think that's his best game all year.
It is. And then you've got the other guys. Chester Rogers 1 for 3 yards. And then Nick Westbrook, the belle of the ball, the guy that has the pass knocked out of his hands for the game-sealing interception for Cincy to go ahead and kick that field goal. It's just I don't get how Tannehill is trying to force that to him. It's one thing if you're trying to go to your guy like A.J. Brown, but to put your entire season in the hands of a guy like Nick Westbrook seems unfair to him. It's just Tannehill can't throw 3 picks and expect to win a playoff game. If they were going to win this game, I needed at least a touchdown and no picks. The Bengals turned the Titans over as much as they could. It's really hard to win the game whenever they had more passing yards. They had more overall. They barely had. They had a little bit less in terms of overall yards, but the Bengals had more first downs, were more efficient on third down. The Titans went 1 for 8 on third down. That cannot happen in any playoff scenario ever and expect to win.
And the biggest thing I think for the Bengals is that I noticed I didn't get to watch this whole game. I kind of watched the first half and I literally watched the game-winning field goal, and that was probably the only second half play I watched until I watched it back. And Burrow probably really quick realized he had no time. He got hit 12, 13 times. He took 9 sacks. They did a lot of screens to Jamar Chase, and Jamar Chase did his thing. He has those playmakers that kind of can shift the game script at that point. It's like, okay, well, fuck going downfield because I literally can't. So I watched a screen to Jamar go for like 50 yards or something ridiculous like that.
Yeah.
Like I'm not like the Titans played well all season. They went 12-5. They got the number 1 seed without most of their guys. Their defense did step up for the most part. They did what they were supposed to do and fucked Burrow up, for lack of a better term. They beat his ass in the backfield, but it just ended up not being enough because the Titans offense just couldn't do anything. And yeah, like Ryan Tannehill's kind of always been that guy where, he has some good legs on him. He has a decent arm on him. He's a top. Can we say 15? Would he be 15?
Ryan Tannehill?
Yeah.
I think he's between 15 and 20 for me in terms of just overall value upside. If you lay everything out in terms of who he has around him, what his contract entails, all that stuff, it definitely affects the value of a Ryan Tannehill.
But yeah, like you said, 3 picks, that can't happen. That, first play of the game, last play of the game, and another one mixed in between there, and ended up ultimately costing him the game where, their defense kept him in it for the most part, and the offense just had to do their job. But once again, the Bengals, win their second straight playoff game. They've broken the curse even more now. Joe Burrow is the best quarterback on the planet because now he's 2-0 in the playoffs. I like the Bengals. I don't know if I liked them against the Bills or the Chiefs, not thinking about that result right now. But after the Bengals had won, I don't think I would have picked them against the Bills or the Chiefs for that matter, regardless of who won. But this was a nice story. They've played really well. They have a very young core. They're going to be a very good team. Their defense played really well. And in terms of, this season, they've kind of had some up and downs. It was really good to see their front kind of hold that run game down for the most part, and the secondary make plays over and over. They did what they were supposed to do. They kept their offense in the game, and their offense just did enough. Well, Evan McPherson just did enough.
Yeah, my thing with Cincinnati, they've had a really, really good year. Looking at them overall this season, especially in the playoffs, they beat Oakland in a lower scoring game, and they just eked out this victory against Tennessee, who everybody basically penned down as the not worst 1 seed in the last 5 years, but in terms of not wanting to play the 1 seed, I feel like the Titans are the one team that people can look back on and say, yeah, they weren't super afraid of Tennessee this year.
Right.
The Bengals are going to have to put up more than 6 a quarter to beat the Chiefs, and they would have needed to put up more than 6 a quarter to beat the Bills as well. It's just their offense, while it is talented and they have upside, I don't think they can keep up the pace with anyone else that's basically still playing. Maybe the Niners, if it's a Niners-Bengals Super Bowl at some point, but KC's offense is on a different planet than Tennessee. The Rams offense is in a different stratosphere than Tennessee. It's just comparing apples to oranges. So since Cincinnati, it looks great. They're going to the AFC Championship with a second-year quarterback, but they're going to need to be a completely different team offensively to even keep up with their contemporaries moving forward.
Yeah. We'll get back to the Titans in a little bit when we talk about what's next for them. We'll move on to the nightcap of Saturday night. We'll move on to the Packers and the 49ers. I watched most of this game. From the first drive, I thought it was over. Drive number 1 of the game, Rodgers, Adams, Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon, get it done. First drive, touchdown. They never see the end zone again.
That can't happen.
Contribute what you want to cold weather. Historically, yes, cold weather has low-scoring games. It is what it is, what it is. But Aaron Rodgers threw for 225 yards, no touchdowns, no picks. For the longest time, Devontae Adams was the only wide receiver targeted up until like the fourth quarter. And I get it. That's your dude. But at some point, you got to get the ball to Cobb, Lazard, somebody when you're just not doing anything. And like I can't take anything away from Bosa, Warner, all those guys. They played extremely well to hold down this really good offense, but I don't understand what went wrong from the first drive on. After the first drive on, nothing ever went right for Aaron Rodgers. And I'm not going to sit here and be like, he's not the MVP. The playoffs have nothing to do with MVP voting. That's a huge misconception that people get. And people will say, like, well, how can the MVP choke in the playoffs? It's no longer how can the MVP choke in the playoffs. It's how much longer can Aaron Rodgers continue to go to the playoffs and get knocked out in like spectacular fashion.
Yeah.
It's a running joke because it keeps happening. That's the problem. Jimmy G threw for 131 yards, Devin. 131. He can't keep getting away with it.
He will. Anytime the Niners play in Green Bay, if you don't bet on the Niners, you're just costing yourself money. Aaron Rodgers, I was watching a Pardon the Interruption, and Mike Wilbon made a joke about it wasn't really even really a joke, but Robbie Gould played for the Bears for the first portion of his career, and Aaron Rodgers has made it his like mission to let everybody from Chicago know that he owns the Bears. You don't own Robbie Gould, Aaron. The Niners own Aaron Rodgers in the playoffs, and he's just for however great he has been in the regular season, he's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. He's a top 5 quarterback, possibly all time. But
in the
he's
regular
not
season,
that level of a winner. He's just not that guy. I'm over the Aaron Rodgers thing. He could say he needs more weapons. He could say that his defense or special teams need to play better. Aaron, you need to play better. If you're the best quarterback, you need to figure out a way to put up more than 10 points at home in the divisional round. Since his Super Bowl, he's 7-9 in the playoffs. He is not. And maybe he's doing enough, but I'm over it. I don't care where Aaron goes. If he stays in Green Bay, good for him. This entire year has just been a bunch of the way that he's carried himself this year. This seems like the most fitting end of the Packers season as humanly possible. I feel terrible for Matt LaFleur. I feel terrible for the Packers fans, but at a certain point, he has to look in the mirror and say, what more could I have done?
Right. Like, I will talk to all the Packers fans right here. I get it. Your special teams has been a problem all season. And in the end, your special teams was what gave the Niners the lead. The blocked punt ended up turning into the game time touchdown, et cetera, et cetera. I get that. I really do. But the offense has to put up more than 10 points. You are the number one seed. You are the number one seed in the NFC. You have dominated since week 2, just about. There's no reason. Like, if you look at some of their losses, they got blown out week 1 by the Saints, okay? Throw it out the window. They lost to the Chiefs with Jordan Love, and they lost to the Lions. That's it. I'm pretty sure. I'm missing a loss somewhere. Can't remember who else they lost to, but
Green Bay, the thing is, yeah, the special teams won the game for the San Francisco 49ers, but it's a part of the game. And if your special teams is bad
to the Vikings,
if your special teams is bad enough for you to lose a game solely because of your special teams, then somebody needs to be fired and something needs to change. Right. Their special teams have been shit all year. LaFleur should be questioned about why he didn't fire the special teams coach or coordinator and try and figure something else out, because this is what happens when you just leave a problem unchecked. My biggest thing about this game is the Packers had a chance to win the game. It was 10-10. Packers had the ball back. They had time to try and do something. 3 and out. You cannot have that happen at home.
Especially when you're on you're on 12, you're on 10.
Yeah.
3 and out, and you're deep in your own zone is what led to that problem in the first place. You were put in that position to have a block punt turn into a touchdown because you 3 and outed in your own zone deep because you just never got anything going, because you force-fed Devontae Adams, because maybe they lost Dylan. I can't remember if Dylan came back into the game at any point, but look at another play too when he threw it to Aaron Jones wide open. Aaron Jones made this weird cut. I think if Aaron Jones keeps going straight, he might make a touchdown. I don't know. I'm not an expert. I'm not a running expert.
He's not Tyreek Hill.
He's not Tyreek Hill. You're right. But like the blocked field goal, that ends up mattering a lot. It's just so many weird sequence of plays that you can look at. It like you forced Jimmy to try and win the game, and Jimmy didn't really win the game, and you still couldn't beat him. He threw a pick that should have never happened, for one. Aaron Rodgers has been conservative with the ball all year, barely throws interceptions, but you've played in that weather all your life. You're in that weather all your life.
Yeah,
you have to be better.
My thing is, on that last play for Green Bay, he elected to throw it into double coverage, a Hail Mary prayer to Davante Adams. That was the last offensive play of the Green Bay Packers season. He had Lazard cutting across the middle. He had other options. And we get it. Davante Adams is the best receiver on the planet, give or take. Maybe a couple guys you could put over him. I'm not going to discuss that or argue that. Aaron doesn't trust his teammates, and until Aaron can trust anybody besides himself and Davante Adams, he's never going to win again. He was very unfortunate to have Mike McCarthy. He had Greg Jennings, Donald Driver, Randall Cobb, Jordy Nelson. He has had talent surrounding him his entire career, and the deficiencies of Alan Lazard, Randall Cobb, Equinemius St. Brown, you just name all of the other receivers for the Packers, the deficiencies on their part, I blame Rodgers for.
He's the reason why Randall Cobb was on the team this season.
Yep, I blame Rodgers for why Alan Lazard and MVS aren't more featured options on that offense, because we have seen through this weekend tertiary players making plays. Gabriel Davis, Byron Pringle, Mecole Hardman, you name it, Cole Beasley, Scotty Miller. You don't have to be a household name to get the ball and be productive with these next level quarterbacks. Tom Brady does it. Josh Allen proved this week he can do it. And then you've got Mahomes, who's throwing to Tyreek in the Hills. And mind you, whenever we get to that game, I'm done calling them Tyreek in the Hills, because I'm going to put some respect in their names. They all played a great game. But Aaron needs to spread the ball regardless of where he is next year, or else it's just never going to click. Right. Because if you're just going to be able to scheme against one guy, you will never make it past this round. And that's just the way it is. It's so easy to game plan for the Packers whenever all he's going to do is pepper Davante Adams and Aaron Jones.
As far as the Niners go,
Robbie Gould, good for him.
They snuck it out. What do you want me to say? Do I still like them? No, I can't stand the fucking Niners, but they won the football game. They did what they were supposed to do, whether it was on special teams, offense, or defense. It doesn't matter. You got out with a win. You're going to the NFC Championship against a team you've beaten for 5 years straight, 5 times in a row. Sorry. And you're looking good right now.
Crazy. 10
straight. That'd be wild.
Games. That'd be wild. Yeah. I'd be like, pack it up. Niners are playing.
I can't keep watching Jimmy get away with it. When you hit me with the stat of he's 9-2 when he throws a touchdown or less, that bugs the shit out of me. It's like Trent Dilfer-esque. We're back in this whole. I guess so. Dude,
he was the heir apparent to Tom Brady, who's the quarterback. He's the face of like quarterbacks winning games when they have insane defenses. You look at Tom Brady's playoff career. Yes, he's like 35-12, and that's another thing. Aaron Rodgers is like 11-10 in the playoffs. No more comparing anybody to Tom Brady besides Tom Brady. He's 35-12 with this loss to the Rams that we're going to talk about. No, yeah, because Tom's had insane defenses and it has helped aid his career. Jimmy's the same byproduct. They're from the same cloth. Yes, Jimmy makes more mistakes than Brady ever has, but you give them a defense, it's hard to beat them regardless. Yeah. And shout out Deebo Samuel for everything he put on the field that game. I watched him hobble off before that field goal, and he looked spent.
Yeah, he did. He looked beat up, but he's been the reason why this team is in it. He's a great playmaker. He is great with the ball in his hands no matter how you get it to him. And that's what they're doing right now.
One of the most dynamic players in football.
Yeah. when he's healthy. Like Debo struggled with health over the past couple of years. That's why I think he's been kind of off the radar. And this year he played. I think he missed one game, so he played 16 games and did pretty damn good. If Cooper Kupp didn't exist, he probably would have been Offensive Player of the Year.
Yep.
All right. Speaking of Cooper Kupp,
I was gonna say, speaking of offense,
the Rams start off Sunday by. They were up 27-3 at one point. We talked about it last week. If Tristan Wirfs was out, it was going to be a tough day, and it was a tough day.
Yeah.
Tristan Wirfs is one of the best right tackles in the game, if not the best right tackle in the game right now. And it showed. Brady was under pressure. Brady got beat up. I'm not sure how many sacks he took. Let's see if it's here.
3, if I'm correct.
3? Yeah.
Yeah, he took
okay,
3.
So maybe not as much as I thought, but he was pressured a lot. Something Brady's not really used to. He's had one of the best lines all season. He's depleted. He doesn't have Chris Godwin. He doesn't have Antonio Brown. Jalen Ramsey was covering Mike Evans for the most part until the back half of the game where Ramsey let up one big score. But during most of the game, the Rams were running away with this. They put up, it was 27-3. Kind of a costly fumble right before the half by Cam Akers that kind of took away 3 points. Little did we know this was just the start.
The Rams didn't throw a single interception. Congrats, Matt Stafford, but they lost the turnover battle like at a 2-1 clip. They had 4 turnovers in this game, and they still managed to like squeak it out, which makes me excited for this NFC Championship game because the turnovers might not even matter. This game was a lot closer than it ever should have been. Cam Akers really screwed the pooch on that fumble. He had 2, I believe, but that second one was a backbreaker, and he's lucky that Matthew Stafford he's not lucky that they just didn't decide to guard Cooper Kupp on the final drive of the game. I'm happy that Matthew Stafford
exists.
I'm happy that Matthew Stafford exercised his demons, and everybody can kind of just shut the hell up about how Matthew Stafford's one of the most overrated quarterbacks ever. His talent is undeniable. His situation was indescribable for the first 10 years of his career, and now he might just be He might just be the guy that's going to lead the Rams to the Super Bowl because, yes, the Niners have owned the Rams over the course of the last year or so, year and a half, 2 years. I'm not going to go against the Rams in this matchup for more than one reason. One, the Super Bowl's in SoFi. The last time we had a Super Bowl in a team's hometown, it was the Bucs, and they ended up winning it all. And the Packers arguably were the better team than the Bucs last year. But I raise you this. It's lining up far too perfectly. Like the NFL, I know it's not rigged, but the NFL does not want to see the Niners in the Super Bowl. Point blank. They would much rather have the Rams in the first year of SoFi Stadium playing at home in the Super Bowl, basically christening the stadium and christening the franchise, quote unquote.
I'm doing my best to get rid of this glare. It's hurting my eyes.
if the Rams do somehow lose in the NFC Championship game, fire everybody because this is it. This is their shot to win it all. If they cannot figure it out this year, it will not get any easier moving forward. They will lose Von Miller. They will lose Odell Beckham Jr. And Whitworth will probably retire. They are not going to be able to sustain whatever it is they found this year. Akers will come back. Michelle's going to be gone. They do not have the money to re-sign most of these guys that they added as incremental pieces throughout the year.
Yeah, it's now or never. And this is where not only that, like I know you've put all your capital into this. The time is now. You have to beat the Chiefs or the Bengals. You know, you get by the Niners, and you got to beat the Chiefs or the Bengals. Most likely the Chiefs. But more than anything, you got to shut this. You got to get this Kyle Shanahan chip off your shoulder. He's beating your ass 5 times in a row. The game 3 weeks ago was probably the closest game you've played in a while. Other than that, you've gotten your head kicked in. You have to beat the Niners. This is literally the biggest opportunity you can get.
Yeah.
You open you jump right through your window, you beat your rival. It's now. You've done everything you could. You've put together the best team you can possible within cap space. You've traded, you've done this, you've done that. There's nothing else left to do besides win.
Yeah.
That's it.
the Bucks got a really. It didn't matter in the grand scheme of it. The Bucks caught a very just unfortunate set of circumstances whenever Eric Weddle essentially earholed Mike Evans on that pass breakup, because the ball touches the ground before Weddle makes contact with Mike Evans, which then results
Yeah,
in just a personal foul, dead ball penalty, which is Rams ball essentially. So it was like a fourth down.
right.
It's Or it was before a punt. I don't know what was going on with it. It was just
The
weird.
ball
And
hit the ground on fourth down, so it's a dead ball foul. So it's a turnover on downs, but it's also 15 yards on the Rams.
yep.
That's how dead ball
Um,
fouls work.
yeah, Leonard Fournette did his best playoff Lenny resurrection that he could. Mike Evans did everything he could. Scotty Miller sighting. It was just too little too late for the Buccaneers. And I can't emphasize enough how fortunate the Rams are that they were able to gut this game out. If the Rams did lose this game, they've got like a year
It
left.
was
They
just
don't
so
make it.
close to being one of those Brady moments, though, wasn't it?
I thought Sean McVay was going to start crying after the game got tied. I saw that just the camera panned to him. He was just like wide eyed. I was like, "Damn, they need to
Because
figure this out."
there was a launch snap over Matt Stafford. There was Cam Akers fumbles. I think Cup fumbled. Was that the other fumble?
Yeah, that was.
Um,
I was surprised that
yeah,
they gave the Cam Akers 24 carries. This guy's Achilles ruptured 6 months ago. Like, yeah, I was surprised that Derrick Henry got 20 carries, but Sony Michelle having one and Akers taking 24 of them,
that confused me. I
that
really
scared
expected
the
a
shit out
split.
of me.
I
I was
expected a split.
petrified. I was like, I get he had a great wild card round, but let's not. I just protect Akers at all costs, point
Yeah,
blank.
100%. Cooper Cup though, 9 receptions, 183 yards, a touchdown. Dude's been doing it all season, and he does it again. He's left basically open on the last 2 plays of the game before Matt Gay pushes it through. That's kind of been
There's
the story for the Bucks all year. Their front is great, but their secondary was a little sketchy. They did have all 11 guys back for the first time in God knows how long. They lost Sean Murphy Bunting in week 1 to the Cowboys. They've been losing guys all season. The Rams offense is just really good. Tyler Higbee had 4 receptions for 51 yards. Odell Beckham,
Odell.
it's Odell's fault. 6 receptions for 69 yards. Nice. You sprinkle Van Jefferson in there.
Yeah.
Jefferson's a deep threat. He
Oh,
did only have 2 for 29, but
he also
at
had
any
some running
point,
work.
yeah, at any point, that 2 could be 90
Yep.
because he gets hit on big plays. We'll circle around to the Bucks in a few minutes. Let's
Well,
just get to
my only thing about this game as well is one of my favorite football things ever is just panicked Matthew Stafford. Matthew Stafford in a high leverage situation is one of the funniest dudes to watch ever. There's an NFL Films clip from like a game that the Lions were playing in where he threw a super deep pass to Calvin, got dropped at the 1 yard line, running up to the line, screaming, clock it, and like punches forward for a quarterback sneak
that was against the
touchdown.
Cowboys.
Yeah, but then this week, after he lands that massive bomb to Cooper Cup to set up the field goal, just him panic, just yelling at everybody, but like, oh god, it's so fun to watch. The
Didn't I
passion Matthew
suffer enough
Stafford
last
has,
week? Why'd you got to bring this up?
huh?
Didn't I suffer enough last week? Now you got to bring up more
You
Cowboys
lost a
losses?
regular season game to the Lions like a decade ago. If you're not over that, I'm sorry, you're never getting over this one. But speaking of never getting over stuff, Bills
Bills
fans, I am
Mafia.
so sorry. There's not enough tables in the world to avenge this loss. This is game of the year. This is arguably game. This is probably game of the decade material for the 2020s.
It really
It's
is.
an early candidate in my eyes. It's it is what it is. I'm gonna say it as bluntly as I can. Both of these teams came into the game as the arguably most high-powered offenses in the playoffs. They came into this game understanding they were going to play 60 minutes of football, and if you didn't decide it, it's going to be decided in a section of time, and whoever scores a touchdown first wins the game. They both agreed to these rules, and they both put on a show for all of us. Patrick Mahomes is the best player in the NFL right now, give or take a handful of players. What Josh Allen did was sensational. The most remarkable thing I've seen since Patrick Mahomes. But sadly, he was playing against Patrick Mahomes.
Nine
Mahomes
touchdowns in 2 postseason games, no interceptions. First player.
Patrick Mahomes not only threw for more yards, he ran for more yards, ran for a touchdown on top of him. Patrick Mahomes is the skeleton key to the next decade of NFL football. Because while I give a lot of shit to the receiving core out there in Kansas City, they showed up for the most part because Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill, yes, both had big days. Tyreek, especially with 150 yards. But Jerick McKinnon had 5 for 54. You had Byron Pringle getting mixed in with 5 receptions. Mecole Hardman showed up whenever it mattered. It's more than just Tyreek and Travis. And
I still can't express enough how much I love seeing Jerick McKinnon back in a football uniform making plays. I love that dude.
like they probably have the best group of skill guys in the league, just regardless of like top end talent. Because Tyreek is
Yeah,
insane. Tyreek is the fastest player in the NFL, and
on the planet.
everyone forgets it every 4 weeks because Jamar Chase burned somebody for 80 yards. But the things that Tyreek Hill can do on a football field, we have never physically seen. He can outrun anyone, probably in the history of the game at this point, because
Yeah.
his acceleration makes no sense to me whatsoever. And then they had Clyde back, which was huge. He put up a really good rushing performance on just 7 carries. Hardman got into the rushing attack. Tyreek got a carry for -2 yards. We're not going to talk about that.
Something interesting too is that you look at Pat Mahomes with his 7 carries in comparison to Josh Allen, who had 11 carries for 68 yards. A lot of Josh's carries are designed.
Yep.
Patrick has 7 carries, no designed runs. It's just, I'm in trouble, I'm going to take off. The dude just knows what to do in almost every situation. He got throws here, throws there, throws everywhere. He just knows what to do in almost every situation.
And the thing was with the Chiefs, I made a joke last night on one of those halftime rooms that will be in Austin. I was sitting there and I was like, ever since Travis Kelce grew his beard back, Kansas City has been a problem. And
Yeah.
I remember back in before week 9, Casey had been going through it for the first half of the year, but Casey's biggest problem was turnovers. And the thing that I love about sports is there's a good chunk of math involved, and there's always an average. There's always a regression or progression to the mean. And the Kansas City Chiefs are turning over the ball at a rate that we had never seen them do before, which means they were eventually going to come back down to earth. And this is it. Kansas City, this is Kansas City. What we saw earlier in the year, yes, that was a part of their progression, but Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce and the whole bunch of them, the sum of their parts is arguably the best team in the NFL any given Sunday.
Yep.
And the more impressive parts of this game is Tyrann Mathieu got knocked out in the first quarter after taking a knee from Josh Allen to the head. And then later in the game, they were down to Javarius Ward, who's basically their top corner. And it didn't matter. The only way I can accurately describe this Kansas City Chiefs team, and I am gushing right now. I am a Los Angeles Chargers fan, but this team is so good that I can just acknowledge this at this point as fact. They are the Undertaker. There is no amount of time that I will ever feel comfortable with Patrick Mahomes having the ball for. He could have 5 seconds, and they're probably going to figure it out.
So let's get into that. We'll get into the last 1 minute and 13 seconds. So Tyreek Hill, long play, touchdown. Kansas City goes up by 4. Forces Josh Allen with
points in 2 minutes. It's insane.
Yeah. Forces Josh Allen down by 4 to get a touchdown within a minute and 10 seconds. We haven't talked about Gabriel Davis. We'll talk about Gabriel Davis. First ever wide receiver with 4 touchdowns in a playoff game. 8 receptions, 201 yards, 4 touchdowns. Stephon Diggs had 3 catches for 7 yards.
The Chiefs did their job.
Yeah. Gabe Davis had dudes. Yeah, Gabe Davis had dudes falling all over the place. They scored a touchdown with 13 seconds left. So let's get to the 13 seconds, and then we'll get to the overtime rule where, it comes up every single time. One thing I can say now, it's easy for me to say I wasn't there. The Bills' decision to kick a touchback
makes no sense.
I didn't understand that.
Makes no it's just it's ignorance because you're spotting them at the 25, which is great, but no time is burnt off the clock. I would take time off the clock as opposed because if you kick it to like the 5-yard line, Pringle's good, but I don't think he's breaking it off for like 70 yards. Like, yeah, Tyreek had the punt
No,
return for
I
64
think worst
earlier.
case scenario,
That's
he gets to the
Tyreek.
35,
Yeah, but
and
then
that burns
8 seconds. They're
7 to
probably
8 seconds.
they're probably 7 or 8 seconds by the time that he's down at the 35.
I completely understand the idea that you would hate to lose on the kickoff return, but I would much rather have time burn off the clock on a kickoff return than a Patrick Mahomes led offense.
If Byron Pringle beats me in the AFC Divisional
Then
playoff
so be
round,
it.
so be it.
Yeah.
I know Patrick Mahomes can beat me because nobody's beaten Patrick Mahomes in this setting. The last
Right.
time he lost in the AFC playoffs was to Tom Brady because he got billed essentially.
Yeah.
And that's not it's the thing with this game for me was the but the thing is as well, Butker missed an extra point and a field goal.
Yep, it's
If
4 points.
Butker's Butker like he normally is, the Chiefs win this game in regulation and no one's bitching about anything. Like both of these teams had 60 minutes to leave without a shadow of a doubt who was going to win this game. And sadly, it came down to an overtime period, but we all know how the NFL's overtime rules are run, and I do not see a flaw in how they're run. Every team, before they lace up their cleats, put on their pads, understands the parameters of the game in which they occupy. So we can all have sour grapes after the fact, but it's not like we all didn't know this was a possible outcome. It's just ignorant, and it seems disingenuous to complain about something that's been this way, and it will continue to be this way. And if we're going to keep complaining to where it gets changed, I'm just saying it right now. People are still going to bitch because you said it best.
So here's the thing. Here's the thing. Right now, here and now, myself, Devin. Fuck, Devin.
Me.
The NFL overtime rules are fine the way they are. Fine being a very loosely term, but it is the best you can get. Why? Because anything after the fact causes more problems. In modern society, we create things to solve problems that create more problems.
Yeah.
Everything that's been invented in time has solved one problem and created another. You can go through everything. You can be like, hey, I think the Bills should have got a chance to score. Cool. They go and score a touchdown. Cool. Kansas City goes and scores a touchdown. Game over. Okay. Now Kansas City got two more, an extra possession. Now we're complaining that they got too many possessions. College rules. You want to do college rules?
Just play forever. 14 overtimes. It logistically can't work.
No. College rules are the way they are because we don't care about college kids. It's as simple as that. We were college kids. Nobody cares about us. Okay,
we are just numbers on a census for universities. It does not matter.
But these are professional athletes that can't play a game at full speed for 120 minutes.
Well,
it would go on forever.
The thing is, ownership groups will never agree to changing the overtime rules to a point where it's touchdown for touchdown for touchdown, basically playing a game of match. Yeah. I understand that it's frustrating that your offense didn't get a chance to see the field, but football is a game where there are three different sides of the same coin. Yeah, a three-sided coin. I don't understand it. The NFL makes no sense sometimes, but there's special teams, offense, and defense, and every team has to master all three of those aspects to win a championship. It's just the way that it most of the time works. And for one, the ownership groups are never going to approve a overtime format that is based upon a full quarter, so being 10 minutes of extra football, or a system where you score the touchdown and they have to match and score a 2-point conversion, because there's so much. Essentially, what we are bargaining with is how much more money can you make off of the revenue of an overtime period that isn't done after that first touchdown versus the money you stand to lose if Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen goes down with a knee injury, like a career-altering injury. The pro-con ratio is just so far out of proportion that it didn't matter if the Chiefs are going to win after the touchdown. I was still watching the game. You were still watching that game. Anyone listening was still watching the game. It did not matter. It does not affect the ratings. The ratings will be there because the game is batshit insane.
Nobody turned
And
off the game at overtime. Oh, the
the
game's
end,
going to overtime. Let me turn it off because I don't like the rules. No,
the
you're gonna
ending,
find
while
out who wants to win.
the ending, while controversial, is far from the biggest worry or problem the NFL has. If we're
Right.
really concerned about the state of the game, let's figure out reviews. Let's figure out challenges. Let's figure out pass interference and roughing the passer. Let's figure out the things that actually matter in between the lines for 60 minutes and not just the fact that we don't get an extra 20 because it's fair. Sadly, professional sports are not fair. Nothing in life inherently is fair. And to sit here and say that professional sports should be fair is just ignorance because
And the thing is, for someone to say the coin toss decided the game, no, Kansas City decided the game. If you want a coin toss to decide the game and you don't want them to play, then change the rule to that. Let's meet in the middle on overtime, call heads or tails. Whoever wins the game. That's it. Is that what you want to change the rule to? Because that's how people say. People are
the,
like, oh, the coin toss determined the game. No, the coin toss determined who got the ball. The Bills defense determined who lost that game. And it was
the
the
Bills
Bills.
had nothing but control throughout the entirety of that game. Josh Allen called tails. The coin landed heads. I almost tweeted tails never fails unless you're Josh Allen.
I say
Because
tails never fails every single time.
yeah, and the thing
Not
is,
gonna lie.
The Bills had the choice to call the coin. They lost the call and they had to kick the ball. And
Yeah.
congratulations. At that point, you tell your defense, get us one stop, we'll get us home. And the defense just couldn't provide that stop. And to say
It's a
Casey's
team game.
defense wouldn't have
There's
provided it,
53 dudes on the roster.
and to say that the KC defense wouldn't have done it, you're probably right, but that's not the situation that they were dealt.
Yeah.
You have to play the game the way that it's provided in front of you. And if the NFL was less full contact, like the NBA or something, I may be able to get behind a more sanctioned like overtime period where it's not sudden death.
Right.
But the NFL, if you're not careful, could just it any split second your career is forever changed in
Well,
the
and
NFL.
the thing is, you look at other sports. You look at like basketball; they can keep playing because it's not a full contact sport.
Yep.
It's a big cardio thing. You
Mhm.
look at baseball, not contact in the slightest. A lot of dudes get a lot of rest. Yeah, playing a lot of innings sucks, but you get a lot more rest than you do in football. Hockey, hockey has shootouts, but the game is slowed down so significantly
Yep.
to where it's one player and the goalie,
And
then
then
one player,
soccer,
the other goalie. It's slowed down completely. Football never slows down.
it's full speed, full contact at all times. And just to put it bluntly, if the Bills wanted to win the game, they had 4 15-minute quarters. They had numerous times in the last 2 minutes to stop that Kansas City defense, and they had the opportunity to trim some time off the clock before they kicked their way towards an overtime with Harrison Butker icing it.
Yeah.
It's you can be as mad as you want at the overtime policy, but the fact of the matter is it's the same thing in like the UFC or boxing. Leave no doubt. If you want something finished, do it in regulation. Because if you let it go to the
Yep.
cards, let it go to overtime, it's a brand new game and anything can happen.
UFC all the time. Don't let it go to the judges. Don't let somebody else determine your outcome.
Leave
And if
no
you want
doubt.
to say that coin flips win the game, then what happens if you win a face off in overtime in hockey and then score a goal? Well, I didn't get to touch the puck, so I deserve a chance. It's not how that works.
And
Sometimes you just don't get a chance to touch the ball.
And for
The way
how
it is.
great the Bills played in this game, if you look at just the raw statistical numbers, KC had more total yards, more passing yards, more rushing yards, more yards per play, more first downs, were more efficient on third down, had the same efficiency on fourth. Buffalo went for it 4 times, got it all 4 times. Shades of Brandon Staley and Justin Herbert there. But KC ran more total plays. They allowed the same amount of sacks, punted 2 less times, were penalized less, and they held the ball for a significant amount of time, more than Buffalo did.
Yep.
If Gabe Davis caught a 5th touchdown in overtime to send the Chiefs home, I would understand why the Chiefs were really pissed off. Because for lack of better terms, Kansas City won this game,
Mhm.
regardless of how you look at it. Yeah, they ended up getting a touchdown in overtime, but I think Casey scores a touchdown every time down that field if they played for another 2 hours. It was the inevitable. Patrick
Yeah.
Mahomes and that offense ascended to a different tier that I don't think we have seen this season.
All right, let's get to the 4 teams knocked out real quick. We'll start with the Titans. The Titans are projected for $1.2 million under cap. So not a whole lot of room to do anything. Guys, I hope Caleb Farley has a healthy season next season. I'd like to see him play really well.
That'd be
Obviously,
cool.
we'd like to see Derrick Henry play 17 games. They're moving forward with Ryan Tannehill. There's not another option. It's a better option than a lot of other teams have right now.
Yeah.
I think they can be back near in this same spot next season. Maybe not the 1 seed, but I think they can still win their division as long as they're in the same division as the Texans, the Jacksonville Jaguars, and the Colts, who can't beat Jacksonville. So they're guaranteed a loss a year. So they'll be back, but they kind of have to get over this hump of Tannehill has to go on a streak. I think that's the missing piece for them. They have to get
better at quarterback.
If Tannehill can go on a run, fuck it. But you don't have a superstar option right now. And I don't think Derrick Henry can carry you to a Super Bowl. I don't think a running back can do that.
Not in the AFC.
No, definitely not in the AFC. You have to get by the Bills and the Chiefs, and you couldn't even get by the Bengals. Like it's a tough road for the next 20 years.
If you're an AFC team and after this weekend you do not have a generational type talent at quarterback, the next 10 years are going to be extremely tough for your team to ever have a full chance at contending. As a Charger fan, I thank God that Justin Herbert fell to us, because Justin Herbert is going to be my team's probably biggest chance at a Super Bowl for the next decade, because Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen are going to run the AFC moving forward. Tannehill's the problem. Their defense could be better. They need to get rid of Randy Bullock. I don't like him. There was a good chunk of the season where he was just kind of just missing kicks for whatever reason. Yeah. He was the guy out in Cincy last year. So they have little money to improve on any side of the ball. They need Caleb Farley to play well next year. They need A.J. Brown to be what he was this year and healthier. Julio, I'm not even going to talk about Julio Jones. Julio Jones is not a factor of them winning games. If he's off the field, they still have the same chance of winning as if he's basically on the field. But if they can get a healthy Julio next year, it changes the dynamic a little bit, because healthy Julio is a good 1,000 yards, no touchdowns, and 85 receptions. But they need to figure out who their second guy is at running back to give some rest to Derrick Henry in the season, because if Derrick can be healthy for a full year, they should be able to win their division. And Ryan Tannehill has to turn that corner. If he's going to be turning the ball over multiple times a game, they are not going to beat these AFC powers. It's one thing for Jimmy G to not throw touchdowns. The NFC is a dogfight regardless. The Titans defense is not that good. And if they're not careful, the Colts are going to leapfrog them next year, especially if Carson Wentz can figure anything out in the offseason.
Seriously. The Green Bay Packers projected for negative $38 million over the cap space. I think Rodgers is gone. I think Devontae's gone. I don't know how they find a way to get either of those two back. I'll just say it.
Jones is there.
I think the window's closed. I think that's it. If Aaron Rodgers doesn't come back, there's no reason for Rodgers to stay if Devontae goes. There's no reason for Devontae to stay if Rodgers goes. They lose both those two. Jordan Love's not going to get. Matt LaFleur can fling out all these wins he wants over the past 3 seasons, but he's not going to get it done with Jordan Love. It's just not going to happen.
Not at all. Zadarius Smith will probably get cut. You will see a lot of veterans for the Packers just being let go for cap relief. If Rodgers leaves, this team is dead on arrival. The NFC North will then become the worst division in football by a quarter mile. This was I found it funny. I saw a tweet where it was saying Rodgers and Adams posted Instagram stories about The Last Dance. So they wanted to go out like Scotty and MJ, but they went out like T-Mac. And it's fitting. These guys talked a lot. They talked a big game all year. Aaron was obnoxious as hell off the field for most of this season. And you can talk shit if you back it up. But for the latter half of Aaron Rodgers' career, he hasn't backed anything up. Yeah, he's made it to NFC title games. When's the last time he's made it to a Super Bowl? Oh, yeah. I was like in middle school when that happened. So it's a whole new world. Aaron was the guy before we got more guys, and I respect him for what he's done, and I think his touchdown to interception ratio is batshit insane, but I think he cares too much about turning the ball over. And it shows in games like this whenever you need your team to put up points, but you're a little more conservative and you don't want to turn the ball over, which is great in a prolonged state of like consciousness. But one game, you need to win the game or you go home. I want Aaron to be giving it everything that he has. Who cares if you throw the pick? Your defense will pick you up, but you need to give yourself the opportunity to make that mistake if it's going to be beneficial towards scoring points. And Green Bay's done. There's no alternative for me if Rodgers and Adams are gone. They will be a 6 to 7 win team.
Yeah,
maybe 8 in their division.
If they can pull some like New Orleans Saints acrobatics and get under the cap space and keep them both, great. But I just don't foresee it.
I think Aaron might be back next year. I'm pretty sure they have to trade him in the offseason if he's going to play anywhere else. Aaron might just retire or hold out. That's the big thing. And if that happens, so honestly, I don't think Devontae Adams leaves because players don't get to leave in the NFL. Players are shipped out or tagged. The Packers have the franchise tag.
Yeah, they could tag Devontae.
If Devontae wants to leave and they don't want him to, they're just going to tag him. Look at Allen Robinson last year. It's going to get ugly before it gets pretty. But if Rodgers retires, this team is in a far, far, far worse scenario than we ever thought they would be in with Matt LaFleur coach. And his leash might be done. I think if Rodgers retires or leaves, then LaFleur goes 6 and whatever it is, he's going to get fired because you gave them all you could whenever you had the top 5 quarterback in the league and possibly all time, and you couldn't muster any championships or NFC championships. It's just the way that it is.
The Tampa Bay Buccaneers projected for about $21.5 million in cap space, so they got a little room. I think the biggest thing, does Tom Brady retire?
That's it.
Do you think this is it for Tom Brady?
I think everything's on the table. I think if I'm Tom, I'm genuinely thinking about it. He led the league in passing yards and touchdowns. And I think that if there's one thing Tom Brady doesn't want to do is he doesn't want to go out like a Troy Aikman, like a Peyton Manning, a la a Dan Marino. Tom Brady wants to finish out his career as Tom Brady, not the shell of Tom Brady. And while he has evaded father time for the last decade, 45 is a very, very, very old age to be playing quarterback in the NFL. And it only takes 1 year betting on yourself to be on the wrong side of that. So if his family wants him to retire and he's just content with what he's done, there's no shame in hanging it up at this point.
I don't think there's shame in hanging it up, but I think with on the opposite end of he led the league in passing yards and touchdowns.
Yeah.
So he still has it. He still has it in him for one more chance at his 8th ring. I think because he who doesn't want to finish out Super Bowl champions? I think if this team is under the cap space, which it is projected to be, and can bring back all the guys that he has and be healthy, get Chris Godwin back, get Tristan Wirfs back, they can make another run. They'll be virtually the same team. They got to get better in the secondary, but Brady still got it and he shows it. So I think he can stick around one more year. Yeah, it would suck to kind of be that Ben Roethlisberger type shell for your last season, but I don't see that happening out of Brady. I guess it wouldn't surprise me if he retired. There's no reason not to retire. But I just think it's one more shot. I think he's going to get one more shot.
I don't know how good this team can be next year. I'm looking at Tampa Bay's 2022 free agent list right now, and I don't know how many of these players they can actually retain. I think Godwin's gone unless they tag him. But beyond Godwin, Pierre-Paul, Ryan Jensen, Ndamukong Suh, Gronk, William Golston, Fournette, O.J. Howard, Ronald Jones.
Well, if Brady stays, Gronk stays. I think that's simple.
But I think Fournette's going to try and get a payday. I think Fournette, he's still young enough to be there's a lot of names on this free agent list that I just don't know because they only have so much money. They have $23 million to spend.
Right.
Godwin would be all of that money at this point in his career, or at least close to all of that money.
Yeah.
So it'll
be an interesting offseason for the Bucs. Bring back Jimbo.
I think at this point Brady can look in the mirror and say, I got the most out of this roster, and there's nowhere to go but down for this roster after
Well,
this year.
he did it right. Like he left the Patriots, went to the Bucks, immediately won a Super Bowl. He
Yep.
did exactly what he went out to prove. He didn't have to prove anything else to the rest of us. He just did it because he loves the game. I don't hate Tom Brady. He doesn't do anything wrong. He's a decent dude. You just hate him because he's damn good. How many times do you hear like, "Oh, I'm tired of seeing Tom Brady win"? It's like, well, somebody fucking stop him then.
Yeah,
but it's been as simple as that.
Nobody's been able to stop him.
Don't
let teams score points.
There you go.
It's as simple as that. It's tough.
Last team, Buffalo Bills. Let's see where they in the cap space. $10.2 million under. Not a whole lot of money to spend. They were without Tre'Davious White, which is a huge guy in that secondary, but
best guy in the secondary.
Even getting Tre'Davious White back, I just don't. I can't give you a solution to beat the Chiefs because that is your problem right there. You have to beat the Chiefs. You have to figure out some way or get lucky and hope somebody else does it for you and then beat that team. I don't have a definitive solution for you to beat Patrick Mahomes.
What they need to do in the offseason is improve through their draft, build some depth in the secondary, probably improve a bit on the interior defensive line. I just think their biggest moves are going to be laterally. This team is capped out in terms of its top end talent. They need to figure out a way to scheme their receivers better. Gabriel Davis is buried on this depth chart all year by guys like Emmanuel Sanders and Isaiah McKenzie, who are both up for free agent deals. I just view this team, what they need to do next year is get the 1 seed. They need to figure out a way to avoid Kansas City until the AFC Championship and just pray to God they can win a coin toss. Because Kansas City, while they are a better team right now, who knows, maybe in 2-3 years, KC's cap implications kind of hold them back a little bit. But
it's possible.
Their best bet is to improve laterally, build depth, and maybe they can make a swing at some veterans minimum guy or some dude they could take a flyer on. Like, I'm not saying the Bills should go sign Antonio Brown because I don't expect him to play again, but they don't have many options to improve any position groups.
Insanely. Yeah, if they had the money, I would say get a Michael Gallup type guy. I think that'd be insane for them to have.
It would unlock a lot for Josh Allen.
It
would unlock a lot for Josh Allen because the thing is,
he doesn't have a number 2.
Stephon Diggs is one of the best receivers on the planet, but you can game plan to try and stop Stephon Diggs. Dawson Knox has to get more consistent. Gabriel Davis has to take what happened this divisional round and manifest it into an entire year. If Gabriel Davis can't be the 2, they need to find somebody that can, because Stephon Diggs cannot be the offense. And they need to find a running back. If Devin Singletary's your guy, re-sign him. I don't think he is. Find somebody in the draft or find somebody in free agency. There's plenty of backs that you can sign, like a James Conner, for about $2 million on a prove-it deal. James Conner to the Bills in this offseason would be cool. I thought they should have signed him this previous offseason, but that's just me. So we'll see how it pans out. But Buffalo needs to get depth, and they need to improve in certain spots on offense. And they need to figure out their special teams, because I don't know how you don't instruct the kicker to kick it towards the 5-yard line as opposed to the back of the end zone.
That squib kick is wild.
I would just play that on repeat for the next 300 days.
Even if they just take it and lay down with it, then they're bad field position. They're worse than the 25, most likely. There's so many. I don't really see the downside of the squib kick unless you accidentally kick it out of bounds. But at that point, that's your problem. That's your fault.
Yep.
All right, let's get to the conference championships and then let's get on out of here.
Chiefs.
Okay.
If I have to explain myself, there's many a reason why I'm picking the Chiefs over the Bengals. Patrick Mahomes is a better player than Joe Burrow, and this is how it panned out for me. Chiefs Bills. You picked the Bills, I picked the Chiefs. I was like, listen, Patrick Mahomes is the best player in this game.
All I got to say is about picking the Bills and Chiefs. Neither of us were really wrong. Like, I understand the result and I understand the Chiefs won, but in the end,
No one
Neither
was
pick
wrong in their
was wrong.
predictions. I get you. I get you. To be fair, nobody expected Gabriel Davis to have 4 fucking touchdowns.
True.
So
And
the
200
Chiefs should have
yards.
won regardless. But no, Mahomes is a far better player than Joe Burrow is right now. And that's not discounting Joe Burrow as a bad player. I think Joe Burrow has been sensational this year, but Patrick Mahomes is on a different planet. I don't know how Casey's defense can hold up against this front that the Bengals have amassed, but I think they should be able to do enough in this matchup. And I think if Matthew and Snead and Ward are healthy for the secondary, I think they should be able to learn from their mistakes whenever they last played in Casey. Because that's the thing. It's one thing. I even mentioned this when the Bills were playing the Chiefs going into this divisional round. It's one thing to beat a good team once. It is relatively impossible to beat a great team multiple times in the same calendar year. So there's just not a whole lot going for the Bengals in this matchup. Joe Burrow's great. Jamar Chase is transcendent. T. Higgins is really good.
Yeah.
I don't trust Zach Taylor, probably never will, and that's not his fault. It's just his face, I guess. It's what he did whenever he had Andy Dalton in those handful of years before he was gifted Joe Burrow. If the Chiefs don't make the Super Bowl, then I have more questions than I'll ever have answers, because the Chiefs are the better team and they've already gotten that loss out of the way. The Bengals already beat them. The Bengals are going to be stuck trying to figure out how to replicate whatever it is they fucking pulled out of their ass the first time. So
Yeah.
give me KC. Andy Reid's a Hall of Fame coach. He's won the Super Bowl before. This is just another game for KC. This is Cincinnati's Super Bowl, because if they beat them, I think they have the juice to compete with any NFC team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, give me the Chiefs. They're just on a different level in the playoffs. They like the Bengals are a great team, and I love them. I think they're a great story, and if they win this, holy shit, it's going to be wild. But yeah, it's just I can't pick against the Chiefs now. I picked against them once. It almost felt good, and I didn't get away with it. Speaking of getting away with it,
Jimmy G.
Garoppolo cannot keep getting away with it.
Same idea as Bengals versus Chiefs. The Rams just lost to this Niners team. While I know optically does not look good, I think it's a benefit to the Rams. The Rams played a great game against the Niners and they squeaked out that win, but the Rams know what they did wrong and they can study what the Niners did right. It's going to be a game of chess. If Bengals Chiefs is a bar fight, Rams Niners is going to be chess. Shanahan and McVay are two of the best coaches football has right now. And McVay's going to have to exercise some demons. Stafford did it this last week. I think this is the week McVay finally gets over that hump. Because if he doesn't, then his job's in question for me. This is it for Sean McVay and the Rams. If they don't make the bowl this year, I don't think they're going to come out of the NFC anytime in the next couple of years. But I just don't know. So it'll be interesting to see. But I'm picking the Rams. It's a little implicit bias. My dad's a Rams fan, so I just don't want to see him suffer like that with the 6th straight loss to the Niners. I would not be surprised if Jimmy G gets away with it. But for what's at stake for the Rams, it just seems like this is a game that they cannot afford to lose.
Yeah. It's the most talented team McVay can put out there. It's been built for him right there. You cannot let the Niners beat you now. You've let them do it twice, once embarrassingly, and once that almost cost you a home field advantage. There's nothing left to say. You can't let this team beat you. Your window might be now. If you don't win the Super Bowl this year, I don't know if you're going back. I don't just legitimately don't know if you can make it back. The NFC is kind of weird, especially with quarterbacks right now. It's a wild ride. The Cowboys can't win a playoff game. I don't know if Tampa Bay is coming back. The Saints have to play more cap space, juggle again, because they're like negative $71 million. Props to the Saints. I don't know how they do it, but they do it every year. But your division is, I don't know what's going to go on with Seattle. The Niners are always in your face. Who else is there? The Cardinals.
Arizona's going to reload in the offseason. Cliff just got them to their first playoff appearance in Kyler's career. the Rams got to figure it out because it's never going to be. This wasn't even an easy road for them to begin with. They've beaten two incredibly tough teams in the NFC, and the Niners are just the toughest one yet because of how they play the game and how they're coached. But
and even you look at the North, if Rodgers goes, the Vikings aren't scary, the Bears aren't scary, the Lions aren't competing. No one else in the NFC is. I mean, you might have a chance to get back next year if the NFC pans out a little weird. Just the way it looks right now, there's everyone's future is in question in the NFC, while everyone's is kind of set in the AFC.
Yep.
But yeah, Von Miller's going to go. You got to pay these guys. Aaron Donald,
Donald's not a free agent, but yeah, it's just there's not enough money in the world to keep this roster together. It's just this is what the Rams will be over the next couple of years. They're going to be moving ancillary pieces and draft picks to bring in guys that are coming off the contract.
They are projected $190,000 under cap.
Yep.
They can't spend a thing. They don't have draft picks. They've mortgaged their future for this.
Their best bet next year is Von Miller walks, OBJ walks. Donald is still the best defender in football next year. Jalen Ramsey doesn't regress at all. And Robert Woods is back to what he was pre-injury. Yeah. Because that's it, unless they can do a buyout candidate like OBJ was this year. But it's just OBJ doesn't become available any given year. This year was insane that the Browns even thought he was cut worthy.
Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah, he's the problem. So
he always is the problem. So every time I have a problem, I play Odell.
So we're in agreement. Chiefs, Rams, Super Bowl.
Yep.
This feels right. This is what we should have gotten in 2019, whenever the Pats ended up beating the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game. We just got this 3 years late.
Yeah.
And Jared Goff's not involved anymore.
True.
All it took was Jared Goff going home.
I'm ready for Jalen Ramsey versus Tyreek Hill. Let's go.
I'm ready for Cooper Kupp versus Javarius Ward.
It's going to be a wild ride. I don't think it could top divisional weekend. Divisional weekend was wild.
I'm just saying.
That was
the NFL does not want to see Cincinnati versus San Francisco. So I would be very surprised if either of our picks don't land this week. Not saying the games are rigged.
If it's a Bengals-Niners Super Bowl, I would love to see the Bengals win it all. But I would be blown away.
Yeah, the ratings are with Chiefs Rams 100%. Yeah. That is the game the NFL wants to see.
You hear that officiating?
I'm not saying I'm just saying Trent Williams' ankle twitch might get called more often.
Call Trent Williams on his false starts. I'm sick of it. I am so sick of seeing Trent Williams.
Superstars get superstar calls.
I'm gonna superstar punch him in the head. I can't take it. It's so frustrating watching him slightly move back a bit, and then the play keeps going. The whole Niners team is a team of they can't keep getting away with it, and then they get away with it. It pisses me off.
Yeah. Chiefs-Niners would be kind of fun, the rematch, just for Emmanuel Sanders to drop a pass again. Even though he's playing for
Sanders. Buffalo. I was about to say, wait a minute.
I know he's on Buffalo now, but he's still haunted by that overthrow that Jimmy gave him. But I think that's it, Austin. Another week. The NFL season is finally starting to come to a close. We will have no Pro Bowl coverage because I don't believe in the Pro Bowl. We might cover the throwing competition.
What's a Pro Bowl?
Mini games. I don't know, dude. It's not even in Hawaii anymore. They have it in fucking Vegas. So instead of getting laid with the flowers, you're just gonna get a tetanus shot.
Oh,
yeah.
Let's see. Lose my money at a casino. Pro Bowl. I'm going to the casino.
I'm just scared of anything happening in Vegas. The Raiders set a bad example all season. So to any Pro Bowlers, be smart, be healthy, call the damn cab service.
Yeah, that's it. A little shorter than usual. We're running out of games. So that means if the MLB can get their shit together, we will have MLB coverage. We'll have basketball coverage per usual.
Nikola Jokic is not human.
The Miami Heat are the number 1 seed in the East.
Yeah. Anthony Davis is coming back at any given point in the next week or so.
Is he though?
I don't know, man. I don't know.
All righty. Well, catch us on the Halftime app every Monday night at 7 p.m. Pacific time. We will be there 2 nights, as always. Probably reiterating what we said today and yelling at people for yelling at us, because it's going to be a war of overtime rules. I can already feel it.
Yep,
I'm
100%.
ready
Yeah,
for it.
catch us on halftime every Monday night at 7 p.m. Beyond that, I have nothing left, Austin. What about you? Okay, sweet. It's the final part of our show. Everybody looks forward to it because they don't have to listen to my voice anymore. So as per usual,